So there's a lot going on this month, and one of this is this deal that was cut between Mike Johnson and Chuck Schumer over the government. How frustrated are you about this deal?
I'm very frustrated about it, and that's one of the problems is the lack of communication. It's been an issue for me ever since I came into Congress. I'm used to working in the business world where communication is a key part of our success for our customers, but here that is something that's completely lost in Washington. I would have loved to have had input for Speaker Johnson with his negotiations with Senator Schumer because they left out the most important parts that matter to our voters and matter to Americans. The number one is the border. You don't hear people every single day complaining about the things that they negotiated about. You hear people complaining every single day about the national security crisis in America and the amount of migrants that are sleeping on American city streets and flooding across the country every single day. I think it was a massive failure, and we had no input into the conversations that he was having that led to this budget agreement. The second piece that he left out is the weaponized government. I'm traveling the country constantly, going everywhere, giving speeches, talking to people in my district, but also across the country, and people are outraged at the politicized, weaponized government, and that's something that I believe he lost a huge opportunity discussing with Senator Schumer.
This is the second, at least maybe even the third time that he has moved forward on legislation that members and conservatives like yourself didn't like. You did the NDAA, there was this first CR, and then this one as well. Have you lost confidence in him?
I haven't seen anything come out of these negotiations that give me confidence, and that's the problem. I also don't get asked my opinion about things, and that's a huge difference from our former speaker that actually cared about all of our opinions and allowed us to give input. Had an open door policy where we were involved, and we had the 5 families meetings, and I thought those were extremely helpful. That's where communication happened, and that's where the temperature was taken within the conference. We haven't had a single meeting like that since Mike Johnson has taken the speakership, and what he did with the clean FISA reauthorization and the NDAA, putting the money for Ukraine back in the NDAA. Remember, I was on the committee. I had been assigned to the conference committee. I got to take no part in any of the negotiations there with policy. I was just told 15 minutes ahead of time that the final version of the NDAA was ready, and that came about with a Four Corners meeting, not on an NDAA conference committee, and I think that's a failure. So far, what I've seen is a lot of yeses to the Democrats and very little no's.
Is he getting rolled by the Democrats in these negotiations?
It certainly seems that way, and that's what people are saying, some of my colleagues, but people are saying that at home. And they do not want to see our Republican Speaker of the House getting rolled in these meetings behind closed doors. That's not what we want to see out of our Speaker. Otherwise, what's the difference in Nancy Pelosi having the gavel and us having the majority, especially with this upcoming CR? That's something that we know is coming, but again, we haven't heard any of the details, but we know it's being discussed, and you'll see outrage coming out of all of us when that happens.
It's very likely that if he does have to move forward on this, it would be under suspension, meaning not with the support of conservatives like yourself. If they go that route, work with Democrats, how will you respond?
Well, we're looking at a long list of behavior that got our former speaker ousted. I wasn't a part of that process. I wasn't one of those 8, but I think I would ask those 8, hey, when do those same rules apply to our new speaker? And if those are the red lines, why do they change when it's someone else doing it? I know they argue back and say, well, Kevin McCarthy made promises, but really there's no change if you don't hold the same red lines to everyone, if those are the red lines to be held, right? This is what people are saying. And I think the biggest frustration to me is I see the American people as our customer, and I believe customer service is completely lost in Washington, D.C. The American people's hard-earned tax dollars is the revenue of the federal government, and no one seems to give a damn about that here in Washington.
Do you think it's time to consider a motion to vacate against Speaker Johnson?
Again, I wasn't a part of that the first time, and I don't think that leads to anything fruitful. I think that our new speaker needs to have more communication with his members. He needs to allow us to be part of the process, and then he would be coming out with much better results that aren't going to cause him incredible grief in his job performance.
Tomorrow is the first hearing involving Mayorkas, the impeachment hearing for Mayorkas. You've been calling this for some time. Are you disappointed that it's taken this long to get to this point?
I was furious that it took this long, and that's why I forced a vote on the House floor after 2 of my constituents were killed by a 17-year-old cartel member smuggling illegal aliens into the country. That should never have to happen in order to force something to be done about it. But I am encouraged that we're finally doing it on our committee, but I do have concerns. Our majority is now down to numbers that make it impossible to lose a single vote. And I don't think we should have ever been put in this situation. I'm a strategist, and I believe in smart strategy, and I completely disagree with the strategy of throwing out one of our Republican members, ousting our Republican speaker, and pushing us into dangerous territory where we can't lose people due to illness or emergencies or family emergencies. That's not a smart strategy when the country worked hard and gave us the majority.
And if you do you think it's more likely that you guys will impeach Mayorkas versus Biden at this point?
We are going to impeach Mayorkas, and we'll be having those 2 hearings this month, moving into impeachment. It doesn't look like we're moving towards an impeachment vote for Joe Biden as of yet, but we're still working through that investigation in our oversight committee.
And so you obviously spent a lot of time talking to the base. If you don't move forward with a Mayorkas impeachment or a Biden impeachment, how do you think that they're going to respond?
They're already responding. They are very upset with our Republican majority in Congress. Having only or barely holding 1/3 of the power in Washington, that means you have to have realistic expectations, but you also have to do everything you can do. And our majority talked a lot about the power of the purse. Well, our majority, the only thing we've done with the power of the purse is continuing resolutions, which is Nancy Pelosi's purse. That's not Republicans' budget. That's not any of our appropriation bills. I'm extremely disappointed in that, and I've not voted for any of those CRs. But when it comes to accountability, we're watching right now President Trump, the leading presidential primary candidate, who is overwhelmingly winning across the country, poll after poll after poll, also beating Joe Biden, poll after poll after poll, the incredible target of Joe Biden's Department of Justice, along with many of his supporters. We've got Matthew Graves, the U.S. attorney, that has prosecuted over 1,700 people that for January 6th, now making an announcement that he's going after people that were outside the Capitol as well, not just people that went inside the Capitol. This is the kind of accountability that Americans want to see. They want to see a stop to this behavior coming from this politically weaponized Department of Justice. And our conference has done nothing about it, absolutely nothing about it. I also serve on the COVID Select Committee. Sorry to make this lengthy, but you're giving me a chance to air my grievances, so I am. And one thing that I hear constantly from people is they want accountability for vaccines that were forced on so many people. Vaccines may not have injured many Americans, but there is a definite percentage of Americans that are claiming injury, claiming death of loved ones, and we're seeing all types of conditions like myocarditis, heart attacks, heart failure, strokes, blood clots, and so on. We haven't covered any of that in our COVID committee, and that's why I'm holding my own hearing on Friday, because I believe that's what people want to learn and want to know about. But as far as accountability, yeah, we aren't producing accountability, and I think that is a failure.
Do you think you guys deserve to be in the majority next year?
I would argue we definitely need to be in the majority, and we need to have President Trump in the White House.
But I guess have you proven to voters that you deserve to be in the majority?
Well, I think the voters have to make that decision. I always believe in people more than politicians, obviously, But I hope that with President Trump in the White House, we can earn their support because we're going to actually support his policies and get those things done. But you got to remember, Manu, I ran for Congress because I was really ticked off when Paul Ryan was Speaker and they didn't do the things they said they would do under President Trump. So I don't want to see those mistakes repeated.
Okay, fair enough. I'll let you go.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right,
Sure.
nice chat.